My name is Valur Grettisson. I'm an editor-in-chief at Reykjavík Grapevine.
And I'm Andie Sophia Fontaine. I'm the news editor at Reykjavík Grapevine.
Who are with us? Kurt Messick and Laura Rogers.
Yeah.
Welcome. Where are you from?
Oh, me? I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay. Congratulations with the new president. If you like him. You never know, no, do you?
Oh, God.
Where are you from, Kurt?
I live in Bloomington, Indiana right now, so not far from Chicago.
And so. The sky is this beautiful there.
No, right now it's gray and windy, so I feel like I'm in Iceland.
It's similar in Iceland. It's very cold. Like I'm not a fan of January.
No,
so perhaps to start, yeah, if you have any questions, perhaps Kurt, or should I say Kurt?
However you want to pronounce it. It's my students get it wrong all the time. They always call me Kirk. They think I'm Captain Kirk on Star Trek.
Well, could be worse.
So it could be. No, I have not been to one of these before, so I thought I would just come and see what it's all about. And I'm missing Iceland because of the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
I usually fly there 3 or 4 times a year, so I'm a frequent flyer.
Oh, okay.
And I miss it quite a lot. I usually stay in Hafnarfjordur.
Yeah, really?
And
that's my hometown.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
I have a good friend named Magnus who is with the mail service, and I visit him, and I usually stay at the Red Hotel in northern Hafnarfjordur. You probably know that.
Yeah, another place.
I've been coming for about 50 years because my father.
50.
My father was stationed at the NATO base when I was a child.
Really? Wow. So he was one of the first.
So, I've just been coming ever since. I fell in love with the place. So.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing.
I still can't speak the language.
No, I mean.
I'm still
not
working
even Icelanders. We can't do this correctly.
So I have my things to try to learn it. Oh, my virtual thing won't let you see the book. There we go.
Yeah.
There. I'm trying, but it is hard.
Okay. Welcome. We have more people on the line. You are Richard. Yes.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for doing this. We hope you are all safe and well.
We are. Thank you.
I'm here in New York City, desperately missing visiting Iceland.
Yeah, I believe that.
Looking forward to when we can all come back and visit you again. What is happening with COVID and people moving around and interacting? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, exactly. That's the question that everybody's asking about. Perhaps I should start. Or?
Yes, you should.
First of all, COVID right now is like. Sorry, can you hear me like this or?
I
yes.
can.
Okay.
Yes.
It's so uncomfortable to hear myself and everything echoes. So. The thing is that COVID is going down drastically. We have like 0 up to 4 cases these days, which is absolutely marvelous. It means also that we are with a restriction, like it's what do you call it, like a gathering restriction of 20, which is better than when we had it for 10 people. But this will be until 17th of February. The good news is that 15th of January they announced that 1st of May they will open up the borders so travelers can come to Iceland and get 1 test. And this is very important because it means that you can do the 1 test, but you do not have to quarantine for 5 days. But there are a lot of ifs, and we're not sure, like you know yourself, of course, there are so many factors going on when it comes to COVID. And the biggest factor is basically that we will like have colors for countries, like green, orange, and I guess red. And green and orange will mean that you will only have to get this one test, and then you can get into the country. If you, of course, you have the vaccine and you can show like a certificate that you had one, then you can come in without getting the test even. And if you have like if you had it like the COVID before, if you attracted it, got sick with it, that means that you have to have what do you call it, like a health certificate.
Yes.
And I think they will test you, but not sure how it will be. But they are aiming for this to happen from the 1st of May at least.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all we know right now.
Yeah, and on a practical note, I would also highly recommend, because we've also gotten a lot of questions about like, well, what counts as a health certificate? How can I prove that I've gotten vaccinated or I've had the antibodies? If I were you, based on my experience dealing with Icelandic bureaucracy, I follow one general rule: drown them in paper. Like, bring all the papers that you can and present it all. Like, even stuff that doesn't seem entirely relevant, bring it all.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's a really good start.
Okay.
I would just,
I don't mean
err on the side of caution, because it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, as is often said about many other things.
I'm a physician in New York City, and I was fortunate enough to get the vaccination, and I'm hoping that we all can get vaccinated and get back to doing the things we enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, you should definitely be able to come if you have the certificate. But I'm not sure if it's going to happen before 1st of May. Mostly because the EU has a travel restriction on all countries out of Schengen. The same with the US, we can't travel there and so on. So when those restrictions are going on, then it's hard to say actually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a very unpredictable thing, because there's been talks about like another wave coming, and so always bear in mind that this stuff is subject to change at any moment, really depending on the state of the world. But one thing I'm curious about myself, that I'm thinking of asking, because the United States is a very big country, and as we all know, and different states have different levels of COVID response and vaccinations, and there's some states where they've got it relatively under control, other states where it's just full-blown panic. And so I'm really curious to know if your home state is going to have any kind of impact when you get to the border. Like, are they going to have one color code for all the United States? That's something I'm going to ask the health ministry about, and I will answer in an upcoming news article, hopefully soon.
The most uncomfortable thing is that the EU, we follow EU more or less when it comes to these restrictions, and they have considered the US just as a whole country.
Yeah.
And I imagine it's going to be way
That's
too
true.
complicated to go for color codes in each state, because this is definitely a valid question. I mean, it's probably going to be a very different situation in the north and the south and so on, where people have perhaps political stance against masks and simple things like that. So
And vaccines.
Uh,
So, other questions from our live attendees?
we have, of course, a list of questions that we're going to go through. There's, like, most of the questions are, of course, about when can we come to the country, and if you're coming, I know it's nightmarish. Sorry if I can't hear you. Just do like this if you're not noticing anything, because it's so uncomfortable to listen to yourself talking.
Yeah.
Although I really love to listen to myself talking, but 1st of May will basically be the time that you can come to Iceland and actually have a vacation without quarantining for 5 days or even 14 days, or however we will do it then. So it's all about the I think it's called RCP tests, right? Or RPC. I don't know, like
PCR?
or that.
Does that make sense to anybody? Is that correct? A PCR test?
Yeah, there are some kind of tests to see if you have like the vaccine in you.
Yeah.
However that is, however that works. But the thing is also, people are, we got a fantastic question actually about the stare.
The staring.
Should we read this perhaps? Or
Yes.
do you want to do it? Or?
I would love to.
Yeah?
This is from Antoinette, who asks, since moving to Iceland, I have, and to this day, endure random staring from Icelandic people. It is mostly women who stare. But this staring isn't in a normal way. The stare is so intense that it borders on creepy. I have even written essays on these experiences. I'm sorry. My question is, why do they stare like that? I know it can't be because I have brown skin. I'd like to think it's because I'm attractive. But even with a mask on my face, it's hidden. It's becoming very uncomfortable, and I'm not sure how to politely ask if there was a problem. I have begun to stare back, even stopping to stare. It's just weird. This is a thing. This is absolutely a thing. Icelanders do this. I experienced it when I first moved here. My Icelandic hometown is the same as Valur's, Hafnarfjörður, and in the first couple years that I lived there, I would walk down the street and people would literally stop and stare at me openly.
Quite aggressively.
Yes.
Yeah.
And being from Baltimore, like where I'm from, if someone stares at you for longer than 5 seconds, they're asking for trouble. Like, do you have a problem? Do I know you? But there's a number of, I can't speak as to why Icelanders openly do this, why they feel that brazen about it. But one thing I can suggest doing in response came from one of our guests one time in an interview I did with Jules Chambers, who has a wonderful podcast called All Things Iceland. She's a woman of color who lives here in Iceland, and she gets a lot of stares as well. And she recommended, like, I stare back and I smile. So when you make eye contact, they'll either, and you make eye contact back and you smile at them, they'll either break eye contact very embarrassed, or they'll smile back. It's just a way of indicating that, like, okay, you're looking at me and I'm looking at you, looking at me, and I'm showing my good intent. It tends to, like, ease the tension a bit, or it makes them stop staring at you. But being an Icelander, can you explain why Icelanders feel totally okay with just openly gawking at people?
Yes, easily.
Okay.
First of all, for Antoinette and actually Jules Chambers also, color actually is a part of it. Iceland is very white, as everybody knows, of course. I saw my first black person in Iceland probably when I was around 10 years old. I had never seen a colored person before that in my life. So you can imagine even kids were like really staring aggressively at every person that was like not like non-white person. Didn't matter was white, just brown, whatever.
Yeah.
But like black is definitely odder for Icelanders. It used to be, of course. It changed, of course, a lot, but not that much though. Also, we are so few. This is like it's a passion thing almost. Not like in a bad way. It's just we are often like trying to realize, like, do I know this person, and so on. And even like some people even have this habit just watching other people without noticing. They're like some are just aggressive about it, but I even have this odd habit that I like to watch people when I'm thinking. And people often, I don't realize that this is very uncomfortable for the other person until he's like, what do you want? It's like, no, I was just thinking, sorry.
I was just thinking by staring at you. Not at all uncomfortable.
And faces are just, we're just few.
Yeah.
It's nothing more than that.
That rings true. That rings, because the family that helped me move to Iceland, I asked them, like, what is up with everyone staring at me? Because even where I grew up, people would ask me, what country are you from? And like, where are you from? And I'd say, Charles Village. And they, I mean, like, where are you from? That loaded question. But this was the case in Baltimore, and it became the case when I lived here. And so I thought it was just because people are staring at me because I was obviously foreign. But she was like, this is the woman of the family to help me move here. She had said, No, they're just trying to figure out if they know you and where they might know you from.
That's very often like that.
Mm.
This is also why we always ask people for the full name.
Yes.
And like who is your father? It's like a recognition thing. So art is always like.
Please look in the camera.
Yeah, look at the camera.
Not your laptop.
So it means that like when you ask me like what's my name and I say Valur, it doesn't mean anything to people. But then they ask like what's your full name? I say Valur Grettisson, and because you always take your father's name and you're like son of Gretti, which is not a common name. You're like okay, where are you from? Hafnarfjörður. Yeah, is your father Grettir Sveinbjörnsson? And then they can like track you almost down like that. Mm. So it's basically just it's a tribal thing, in my opinion.
Yes.
Any questions or? No?
From our guests? No? No questions so far.
Feel free to interrupt us if anything. Do we want? Have we answered this one?
Yeah. If I have evidence of completing my 2 COVID-19 vaccinations, do you think I'll be allowed to enter the country? That has been answered. Yes, but again, bring every scrap of paper you can demonstrating this. And that brings us to the mystery of the Heart Hill.
Yes, the Heart Hill. That was Eves that sent us that, right?
Yeah. It was Eves, yes.
I actually looked this up. I'm not sure if
First,
you can
maybe explain what the Heart Hill is.
Yeah. Can we show this somehow, the Heart Hill?
On the screen.
Perhaps in the video later on. Okay. There is a hill in Krýsuvík in Iceland, which is Krýsuvík is not far from Hafnarfjörður. If you know where Kleifarvatn is, or the geothermal place there, close to there, there is like this odd hill that has a heart-shaped grass, like part of grass, but it's only like one like heart-shaped grass, and everything else is just very classic sandy mountain thing somehow.
Yeah.
I've never seen this before actually, and I saw this picture, and it's quite remarkable. We need to find out what this is, and I think it's just a natural thing. It's not man-made. It can't be.
Do you think so? I'm pretty sure I'm almost certain it's man-made.
Really?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we had that one artist come to this country who was dumping pink dye in the geysers.
Yes,
it wouldn't surprise me. Do any of you remember this story?
Wow.
Hilarious story.
It was incredible. He used a non-toxic dye that, I think the purpose was the environment is important, or which
it's about perception, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he dumped a bunch of pink dye in a geyser, and then it erupted, and he got in trouble because you're not supposed to do that. In ye olden days,
yes, there it is.
Yeah, it's been found. That is the Heart Hill. Now take a look at this thing and tell me that this is a natural formation.
Oh, it's so odd to do this. Why would anyone do it?
Why not?
I think it's incredibly funny.
The fact that the artist is making us talk about this means that this work of art is a success.
Well, it's a working theory that this is an art thing, right?
That's my theory. I cannot imagine this happening in nature. But then again, you never know. I mean, the nature has produced stranger things than this, I suppose.
That is true. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and just thanks, Yves, for pointing this out.
Yeah.
We'll definitely go and check this out.
Yeah, I just Googled Heart Hill, Iceland.
Yeah, also
and
there's a
came
question.
up with all of.
Sorry. Yes.
I just Googled Heart Hill, Iceland, and it came up with all sorts of images and stories about it. So it's easy to find on Google.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have no idea.
We don't engage in basic research practices. We don't do that.
And Yves also asked, and this is quite interesting, which is there is a company called Mið-Ind.
Greinir.
Yeah, Greinir Mið-Ind. It's very Icelandic. I have no idea how to translate this. It's like a tech company that have made like Siri in Icelandic, And perhaps the interesting thing is that the voice is called Embla, and in the Nordic sagas, then like you have Adam and Eve in the Christian stories, but in the Nordic stories we have Embla and Askur. They are like Adam and Eve in the Nordic stories. So Embla is the name of this voice instead of Siri. You can ask her questions in Icelandic, which is quite remarkable because Icelanders we are kind of losing with the language when it comes to technology, and therefore like our next generation, our kids, they like if you talk to a 7-8-year-old kid, he can probably understand you in English and what you're saying, and it's only because we have like YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, all of this stuff, but none of this is in Icelandic or with Icelandic text or anything, which means that Icelandic children are more or less becoming like what do you call it, bilingual, without anybody really asked for it.
But hasn't that always been the case, though?
Yes and no. We are perhaps good in English, but this have never been this aggressive. I've never seen this before. I mean, even my kids are sometimes just playing in English, which is alarming in some ways. But they are trying to change this, these guys at Miðild, with this making smart technology or whatever you call it, Icelandic also. But nobody's really using it. That's probably I mean, it's a smart name, but
yeah,
that's it. But they are we have of course the Futurecast, and he is encouraging our host of the Futurecast called Bala to talk to him, and we will definitely pitch this to him. It's a very good idea. Any questions? Something more about the Nordic story? Yes, so we have and Ísey Skyr. Have you checked out Skyr? Any of you? You like it?
Iceland's answer to yogurt.
Yeah, the hotels I stay in often have that at the breakfast, and I fell in love with it a long time ago. And the United States doesn't often allow imports of dairy products, but there are places in Minnesota that make skyr, and I buy that here as well.
Okay, I love skyr. I eat this every day, always at noon. But they have it in French now. But they are, of course, like Yves is asking, like since mid-November last year, we can buy Ísey skyr in French, which is great. Do you know if Ísey and other skyr vendors are considering selling without a plastic spoon in the lid? And this is actually a weird problem in Iceland. We have like a government-owned production company that is basically like producing all of these dairy things like milk, skyr, cream, and so on.
Unsalted Icelandic butter just came onto the screen.
Yeah. Yes, smjör.
The best.
This is a salted one. Okay. Anyways, and they have this plastic spoons everywhere. And yeah, they are one of the biggest producers of plastic, one-usable plastic in Iceland, and nobody's really talking about it.
No.
So it's a good point, Yves. It's like we have to stop this. It's not really. I mean, everybody has a spoon, right? It's not.
One would hope.
One would hope, right? I don't know what.
But Yves brought this up in light of the story about how plastic bags are now banned in Icelandic grocery stores and shopping stores, which is true. Like even when you go to the produce section, like the little bags that are on the rolls for bagging up your fruits and vegetables are of a type of biodegradable plant substance. But whether or not like Icelandic vendors are going to stop selling products with plastic spoons is one thing, but I think that if we really wanted to put a dent in plastic production in Iceland, we would just ban bottled water. It's the same water that comes out of the tap. These companies just produce plastic. They're not producing water. but it's very lucrative apparently, because I see shelf after shelf of it in grocery stores, the exact same water that comes out of the sink. I'm in the wrong racket. Like, I really should have gotten in the ground floor with this.
I mean, it's a perfect scam, right? It's like selling your free water. It's
selling, like, yes.
I love it. I mean, you have to pay some respect for that.
Stay tuned for bottled air.
Yeah, right. Also, this is actually incredibly interesting. Here is a question from Marianne Ward in Los Angeles, California. Are there regulations against foreigners buying property, specifically housing, in Iceland? I've heard of Americans buying vacation homes in Iceland, not permanent residents, that they use a few times out of each year. Then I saw on YouTube that a non-Icelandic company had put together about retiring in Iceland. In that video, they said that you couldn't buy property unless you had residency status in Iceland. I'm curious as what the rules actually are in regard of this. Did you understand this? Anyone? So, I have kind of a thick accent. But the thing is that it's actually interesting, because the answer should be no. Americans could not buy house here unless they have some specific ties to Iceland. And the most simple example of that is basically if they are married to an Icelander. If you're in the EU, then it's definitely is completely different, because we're within the EEA agreement, although we're not in the EU. But if you're outside of that area, that it would be. I'm not sure if, I mean, it would have to have a very it would be a very specific case if it would be like that.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone. I mean, you can always bypass rules. You can buy something through like a company. Perhaps you can I'm not gonna. I mean, perhaps it's. I don't know. I'm breaking the law here, but you could technically like start a company like in Sweden, which I think they allow like more people out of like you can do it from Canada at least. They used to buy in energy in Iceland from Magma. But you could actually start a company there and buy it from the Swedish company in Iceland. Yes. So it's a headache, but you can bypass the rules if you want to.
Yeah. Start an LLC in Scandinavia and buy all the property you want through that LLC in Iceland. It's technically legal.
But don't listen to us, of course. We don't know everything, so please look this up beforehand and so on. But
another easy way to buy lots of land in Iceland is be a billionaire.
It helps definitely.
Yes, so, that definitely helps. What's his name? The British guy who's bought like tons of land in Iceland. Radcliffe, is it?
Radcliffe, yeah.
Yeah.
He's buying up our salmon.
Yeah.
Like the rivers with the salmons. I don't know what's up with that, but rich people doing weird stuff.
The second question is interesting.
Yes, could you add?
Sure. What is the correct Icelandic product name for half and half or table cream? I've yet to buy the correct product in the grocery store when I'm in Iceland.
I have to ask. I have never heard about this before.
Half and half.
Yeah.
Half cream, half milk.
What does that mean? Is it like half bottle of cream and then coffee?
No, it's 50% cream and 50% milk. It's creamier
that's
than
coffee latte or something.
It's creamier than milk, but not as heavy as cream. It's really popular in milk, especially in the United States. They don't do that here, is the answer to your question. I would buy, since you're using coffee, I would buy bacon cream and whole milk and just mix it yourself. Honestly. If that's your thing. If you really want half and half, that's the way to go, because they don't sell it here. But if I see that Marion does not live in Iceland, but for those of you watching who do live in Iceland, definitely check out Kostur.is. This is a company in Iceland that imports a lot of North American products. There's a Facebook group called Americans Living in Iceland, and until 2016 anyway, 80% of the posts were about, oh my God, they're selling goldfish at Hogcrape or something like that. But then Kostur came along, and now people can get Triscuits and Vlasic dill pickles to their heart's content. Ocean spray cranberry sauce in a can. Things that matter a lot to Americans.
What?
And I imagine that you can get
Wow.
half and half from Kostur as well. Although it being...
Sorry, what's the word? The Kostur, like the Icelandic word,
Yeah.
like Kostur.
Yes, Kostur.is.
Okay.
But half and half being perishable, I'm not really sure if you can get half and half through it, but I would think that if you live in Iceland and you really had an urge for half and half, that would be the company to turn to. Otherwise, just mix it yourself, you know?
Yeah, this is the funniest thing. You think you know Americans, but you always find out they have some new weird things going on.
It's a very diverse country. Rich tapestry.
Yes, it is. Okay,
Whenever
we're done with the
I come
questions at
over-
least. Sorry?
Whenever I come over, my friends always give me a list of food they want me to bring. So I always have half a suitcase full of different food that can't be purchased there, even with Kostur. The most popular thing for the last year has been M&M minis. They have these really tiny M&Ms that apparently are not sold anywhere else. So I have like 5 packages of it in my. I think sometime I'm going to be stopped and they're going to say you're smuggling M&Ms.
It actually took us like decades just to legalize M&M in Iceland. So now you have a new version, like with even smaller ones. We don't have Jesus.
They'll sell them occasionally at American Days at Hagkaup, Amerískadagar, which is typically like, a lot of junk food, like Nilla wafer cereals, Rice Krispie treats, which to me it's blasphemous buying Rice Krispie treats in the store. This is stuff that you make in your kitchen. It's so easy.
Yes.
Butter, marshmallows, Rice Krispies, you're done. You don't even need to bake it, right? But some people like to buy them in stores. But next time you come to Iceland, since you're taking orders, can you bring over a box of Cheez-Its?
Oh yes.
I miss Cheez-Its.
So what is that?
Cheez-Its, they're like little salted cheese crackers.
Ah.
I would break my veganism for Cheez-Its. I would absolutely do so.
I mean, Icelanders have, of course, we have had such a like toxic relationship with candy for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we taxed candy so much. At this, like we have like these weird traditions of like Prince Polo and all like these chocolate biscuits like Hraun and Æði and whatever. And it's all because we had this odd policy of like we don't want everybody just to get fat or bad teeth and so on. Everybody, like the government was very strict about candy for the longest time. So it's like, I mean, even when I was growing up, we didn't even have like Skittles. There was like a thing when I was a kid, like Lucky, Lucky Charms. Yeah. What do you call it?
You said Skittles.
Yeah.
Which is like how an Icelander would pronounce it. Skittles is what he said.
And like Big Red gum. That was like, if you had that when I was like 14 years old, you would be like the king of the school, basically.
Big Red.
Yeah.
That's true. But Prince Polo, I'm glad you brought Prince Polo up because I was fascinated to learn that it became how it managed to like slip through the loophole.
Yeah.
Because it was classified as biscuits.
Yeah, not chocolate.
So that's how it was able to be imported, Iceland's first candy bar. It's not an Icelandic candy bar. Prince Polo is from Poland.
I think we're the only country in the world that eat this much of Prince Polo, except for Poland, perhaps. Not even Poland.
It's not popular in Poland, Art? No.
Art is saying no, it's not that popular there.
Yeah, he would know. I don't know. Jón Gnarr had a very good theory about the dietary habits of Icelanders.
Yeah?
Do you remember this?
No?
Jón Gnarr is former mayor of Reykjavík and a comedian and a writer. And for a long time, he had a radio show. I think he still has it.
Yeah.
Tvíhöfði, with his friend Sigurjón Kjartansson.
Yeah.
And they just regularly like riff on stuff that's happening in the news or in Icelandic culture in general. And they were relating a story about obesity in children. Rather serious story, but they're both comedians, and so of course they had to find some humorous take on it. And Jón Gnarr speculated that this all goes back to the dietary habits of Icelanders, which has, in his opinion, bearing in mind Jón Gnarr is not an anthropologist, But in his opinion, the dietary habits of Icelanders can be traced back to the colonial times, when the Danes would bring like one ship a year or twice a year.
Yeah.
That was just full of all the stuff that Danes didn't want to eat.
Yeah.
And so Jon Graf's theory was, we've just raised, it's embedded in our culture to eat garbage. And like a lot of sugar, a lot of fat, a lot of salt. These are the like favorites. And so it's a part of our
It's a little bit more complicated.
Dietary tradition. Well, yes, naturally, he's a comedian. I don't think he was trying to present this as historical fact. But yeah, because I mean, when it doesn't hold up to scrutiny, because those are also my favorite things.
Yeah.
And I'm not from a former Danish colony.
Well, I always say that when something goes wrong in Iceland, I always blame the Danes and their oppressive colonization. Colonization, that's right.
That's a great rule of thumb.
Yes.
By the way, blame it on colonization. Blame anything wrong with Iceland on colonization, rather. Like there's some like forms of colonization that were far more toxic in other parts of the world, but
Yes.
here, not so much. I don't know. The Danes were okay, weren't they? Were they all right?
I've never liked them.
I don't know. When I worked at a cafe here, and I did notice that most people from abroad coming in would attempt to speak English because they don't speak Icelandic, and no one will ever expect them to. But Danes were the only people who would come up to the counter and just immediately start speaking Danish at me. Like it was expected that I would be able to understand them or something.
Well,
and I found this so arrogant. You know, like
yeah.
you go to a former colony of your country and you speak the colonial language at people. Like,
Have you tried to speak to a Danish person in English? They have the most hideous accent that I've ever heard.
it's not a pretty language. Even the Danes would admit that. I'm not dunking on Danish people. The Danes know that their language doesn't sound pretty.
But we learned Danish, of course, as children, and I mean I've read too many Danish books, like teenage books, and they're all the same. They're really bad. A lot of sex in them. It's hilarious, but so perhaps it's a fair misunderstanding that we understand them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also very popular in Iceland to not like learning Danish. It's like you cannot find a teenager in Iceland like, oh yes, I love learning Danish.
No, I don't know. It just struck me as a little bit presumptuous. Especially like, do I look like an Icelander? Like, no, you don't walk up to me and speak Danish at me. So I told him in English, like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Danish. Like maybe in that tone of voice too, and then he spoke English just fine, of course. Anyway,
I think this is my fault. I'm kind of like making all at the office like hating Denmark for like for the colonization, which we will never forgive.
No. All right, it's time to wrap it up, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Artists always tell me to go further so we can see you. Any questions? Are you coming to Iceland this summer? Are you?
Hope so.
I hope so, yes.
Yeah.
I still have an Icelandair ticket because way back last March I'd bought one for October thinking everything would be over, and it came October and they said, well, here's a credit for your next trip. The one thing I really appreciate about Icelandair is I'm on their frequent flyer program, and they have given me miles each month equivalent to what I would have been getting had I been flying. So I've been getting 4,200 miles every month based on my previous 12 months of travel. So I'm still a silver member, which gives me certain perks. And
well, as a taxpayer in Iceland, I say you're welcome.
Enjoy those points.
I am looking forward to being back, and I'm probably going to plan a trip in August. I have to go according to the school calendar. But we also have a week off in October. I usually come over in October, then for New Year's, and then in March. And of course, hotels are cheaper at those times too.
But
I
was actually looking at the price for like February, and I do not understand how foreigners or any traveler can afford a hotel in Iceland. We cannot, at least.
No. Make friends with an Icelander online and stay with them.
Exactly.
That's what I recommend.
Okay, anything more? Any questions?
I have a
Good,
question
right?
for you. Yes, what is happening with your wonderfully talented soccer teams? And will you still be selling these Smite the World shirts?
Yes, hopefully. The soccer team is doing fine. They didn't do that good the last tournament. Sorry, I have to take it out. It's like, God, I have annoying voice when it's like echoing in your ear.
Everyone hates their voice, Valur.
Anyways, yeah, the soccer team is doing just fine. It's not like it's not as good as we were in the what we call it, Euro Cup.
Yeah.
Or the World Cup like a few years ago. But there are some changes, and it feels like they could have a better man in the bridge that is coaching them, like a manager.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, but
I can't comment on
I
it.
think we'll bounce back. But and also, but our handball team is doing really bad. That's the worst news.
Handball.
Yeah, handball. You heard about that, right?
Yeah.
Sport with international appeal.
we take more pride in handball than football, actually.
No. Hafnfirðingar take more pride in
yes.
handball than football.
That is true.
Because they have a great handball team, Haukar.
Yeah, as well as FO. They have two actually, and there are 20,000 people that live in the town. It's like a sport town from hell. Tell me, Richard, why do you have Icelandic butter?
Icelandic butter.
Oh,
We like to cook with it. It's great butter.
Sorry?
cook with it. It's a great butter.
It's beautiful. You get it at Whole Foods. They have it at Whole Foods sometimes, as well as
Oh, really?
Icelandic lamb, ground lamb, and cod.
Do you buy it in New York?
Yeah, at Whole Foods. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a grocery store.
She knows, so I trust her.
Yeah.
Icelandic Whole Foods. God, this earpiece is really messing me up. That echo is plays with my head. I'm having flashbacks.
Anyways, that's kind of it for us today. We don't have any more questions.
Now,
And thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us and listening to us and speaking with us and showing us the Northern Lights. I actually appreciate it a lot. We don't see that often in Iceland these days. Or worse, it's outside and I don't have the energy to go outside and check it out. To see the feed on my Facebook, like, honey, it's Northern Lights outside. Whatever. So please remember, of course, our High Five Club. This is why we're doing this, and our online shop and so on. And just thanks for the support as always. Okay. Satisfied. Just like this, and that means that he's ecstatic about it.
right. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.